In part 2 of our Talking Edge with Pos Malaysia Group CEO Charles Brewer, we talk about his plans for the future of Pos Malaysia, how he intends to make full use of the physical touchpoints, and innovations in terms of customer service. We also talk about the issue of climate change and logistics and how it intends to overcome those unexpected storms. The hard question is that Pos Malaysia is losing money. You know, managing costs is something that everybody says Pos Malaysia should do. So, are you going to make hard decisions?
We've already made many of those under stage one, which was fix the basics. We've made some tough decisions. And again, like I said right at the start, I'm a very honest person. My list of 280 things that I garnered in the first sort of 30 days or so around Pos Malaysia and Pos Malaysia, one of them was that we had a lot of cost opportunities. I mean, a lot of cost opportunities. And so we made some tough calls already. We do them early, get them out of the way, and then we move forward as a business. So many of those we made already, and now we can push on and focus on becoming a great parcel delivery company. Most of the conversations I have is more about how are we transforming for tomorrow. So it's not a short-term gain. It's how are we transforming tomorrow. What are we doing with our people? What are we doing with our culture? What are we doing with the leadership development? What are we doing with our service? What are we doing with our customer? And if you get the people piece right, if you get your service right and you treat your customers correctly, profit comes. Any customer can come to me anytime they want if they need help. So charles.brewer@pos.com.my. You can email me anytime you like. If you're not getting the satisfaction from somewhere else, just email me and I'll help you out, no problem.
I know the existing competition, the big names that are already here, not only just the big names, now you have small names as well, you know, everybody filling in this gap. But I think the bigger fear that some logistics companies may have is that a lot of people will go the way of Amazon and have your own supply chain.
Sure.
So you've got big marketplaces now, you've got places like Lazada and Shopee. Is the fear for, when you look at competition, are they your competition?
Yes.
Will Lazada and Shopee eventually come up with their own chains? Is that your bigger fear rather than what's already out there?
I wouldn't say bigger fear, but I think again you've got to be a realist. And the reality is that platforms and the companies you mentioned, we refer to them as platforms, are insourcing their logistics. Yeah, there are about 70 million parcels being delivered per month in Malaysia. 70 million parcels being delivered, and to your point, around about 40% of that is coming from the platforms, but that still leaves 35 million plus parcels that is open and fair game for anybody to go after. So we're very focused on three things. We're very focused on, well, clearly keeping the customers that we have, but focused on really growing our market share in the long tail of B2C. So if you think about B2C, you've got platforms all the way through. I'll give you a great example. I was up near the Thai border a couple of weeks ago, and there was a seller there doing 3,500 parcels a day. So the long tail of sellers in Malaysia is very long. Yeah, so that's opportunity number one, is to gain market share in that longer tail. So less dependency on platforms, greater opportunity in longer tail of B2C. Second one is direct to consumer. So there's I'm not sure if you're completely familiar, but there are two trends in the e-commerce space. There is growing B2C in general, and then the very, very fast, what they call D2C, direct to consumer. Direct to consumer are people like Sephora, ASOS, Gymshark, anybody who's selling straight to the consumer without stores. Sometimes they have stores, but they're not selling on platforms. And we've even had incidences fairly recently of big brands making very conscious decisions to come off platforms. Adidas, Nike, etc. have said they're not going to sell on platforms any longer. They want to sell direct to the consumer. And the third one, which is really exciting, is B2B. But B2B is a huge market. Banks, FMCG, professional services, legal, they're all sending documents and parcels across Malaysia, which historically Pos Malaysia has not played a very big part in. That's a really big opportunity for us as well.
Pos Malaysia has in previous years also been known for doing other services, which actually quite a lot of people responded very well to. Now with this slimming down and this focusing, are you taking any of that away? Are you going, what do you mean when you say you're updating your points? Is it just more kiosks? Is it less people? What is that strategy actually?
That unique platform that we have that delivers to all 9 million addresses that no one else has, which is a value, it's a huge value that we can leverage as we transition into being a great parcels company. Same with our retail footprint. Our retail footprint is unique, and many post offices. So what we're going through as a postal organisation, repeat that times 220 post offices around the world. Everybody's going through the same scenario of declining mails, growing parcels. How do I adjust? Yeah, and many post offices are looking at how to rationalise the number of retail points they have and/or what they do in the retail points, which I get, and again, it's not for me to critique what they do. I see it slightly differently, and I see it slightly differently for two reasons. One is if you look at sort of the geography of Malaysia, yeah. So once you get outside of Penang, Malacca, KL, Johor, etc., and you get into the secondary and tertiary cities, that retail point is a connection. Yeah, and go back to our point about our purpose. Our purpose is trust and connecting. So it's the place where people go to connect, whether it be for mail, for parcel, for stamps, for tax, for insurance. It's a place to go. So I think it's point number one is I think it is actually a unique advantage that we are perhaps under leveraging in terms of how we use that to create a very competitive parcel carrier in the future. Yeah. Okay. So that's number one. So to answer your question, will we be reducing what we offer? No. In fact, the second point, quite the opposite. We want to extend what we offer through those retail points and make them more of a community hub than they are today. So the more we can do in there, the more people we bring in, the more activity we get, which is good for us and good for the community. So hot off the press, still being worked on, and probably a late 22 initiative. We're looking at how, as I said, we're looking at what types of activities do our customers and customer personas want to use potentially those retail stores for, and the world is your oyster. So medical, potentially come and see a doctor. Yeah. So again, not so relevant if you live in KL, but if you live in Sarawak or in Kuching or in Kota Kinabalu or Tawau or wherever maybe, that becomes more and more relevant depending on where you go. So the ability perhaps to go and see a doctor, perhaps not decided yet. The ability to get your prescriptions delivered from there. Your ability, we have a lot of customers. If you look at sort of online sellers, this is more B2C than B2B. We have a lot of online sellers who are really successful in the garment sector. And they only offer online, so they only sell online. So again, you've seen the billboards, you know who those companies are, and they only have an online presence, yeah. And they would like, as many online companies are already doing, a blend of online and offline.
Omnichannel, I think that's the word they use.
You know more than I do. So what we're looking at is, we have 650, 680 fantastic post offices which have a great retail counter at the front and a lot of warehouse space at the back. And that warehouse space at the back in the past was full of postmen sorting mail and going out and delivering that. And as I said earlier, and as everybody knows, the mail is reducing. So we have that space that we can utilize. And again, we're exploring a range of different opportunities for that. We want to digitize. So it is quite a manual process. If you've been to one of our retail counters, it's still fairly manual. So there's a great opportunity to bring that forward into the 21st century. So that's one. The second part of it is really looking at how we can explore greater use of that square footage, that square meterage, to provide even more community hub type services. And lots of other things besides the ones I just mentioned.
We had massively bad floods at the end of the year. Lives were lost. A lot of people were devastated and moved from their homes. And of course, Pos Malaysia was affected on a business level and probably personal level as well with some of your staff. But the fact of the matter is, this kind of incident is going to keep happening. As sad as it is, it's something that we all have to contend with. So as a logistics company looking to the future, how are you going to contend with something like that? How are you going to contend with like Mother Nature changing?
Like you and like many others, it disturbs me on a personal level. On a business level, it has huge implications. So again, if you go back to what we were talking about earlier, we have more than 600 or so facilities. So, one of the things we're looking at is where are they? Where are they located? At what sea level are they located? Because the higher up you are, the better you are sort of protected sustainability-wise going forward. So it has all sorts of implications around vehicles, facilities, flights, procurement. So it really does touch us in all sorts of different ways in terms of making sure we manage for that contingency going forward. So you'll see, again, it's not an immediate change, but certainly in the next sort of few years, we will make good decisions around what we do with our facilities, as an example, thinking about what may be a very regular occurrence as opposed to an ad hoc occurrence. Yeah. So that means when we, as a simple example, when we're looking to relocate, we relocate to a slightly higher ground, as one example. We have an impact, and we're just in the final throes of concluding our 5, 10, 15, 20-year strategy for ESG. But very, very simplistically, we won't be going back to bikes necessarily, but we need to look at alternate delivery methods. I don't think it's right for us as an organisation to keep pushing fossil fuel vehicles out on the road, and we have a lot of them. So we need to find alternative ways to deliver. I don't think it's right that we don't use recycled paper or packaging. So we need to have alternative methods to that.
Drone deliveries? Is that one?
I get asked that. Everybody wants to know about drones.
Blame Bezos.
Yeah, it's spectacular. I don't think you're going to see drones flying around Malaysia anytime soon. And I can another interview we can touch on why, the whys and the wherefores. But not to say we wouldn't. We need to be future orientated, focused. So looking at, because there's a lot of technology out there today that can make us an even better company than we are today.
Pos Malaysia's problems are not unique to Pos Malaysia's problems, not all of them, at least to be fair. Every single post office in the world, post service in the world, whether it's the United States or Canada Post where I used to work, is going through some kind of soul searching at the moment and finding of their purpose. What do you think a post service of the future, a national one, looks like? You know, does it look more like its competitors? Does it look more like Amazon? What is it, do you think? If
you look at very successful postal operators around the world and you look at the common traits, one thing that, you know, those 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 postal operators that are very successful have almost all consistently done is de-risked. They've de-risked the domestic business. So if you purely focus on Malaysia, I think it's to the conversation we were having pre our interview, if you purely look in one sector, you can be very successful, but you also have high potential risk. So we are also asking ourselves the question, how do we de-risk? How do we diversify either geographically or in product that allows us to access, not to move sectors. I don't believe for 1 second we should move into, becoming a train operator or whatever else. We should stay in our sector, logistics, but how do we de-risk so that our future profits are also protected so that we can continue to invest in Pos Malaysia?